Hey everybody, this is my talk called Balancing the Interventional Life, and I was slated to give this talk on 3/29 during Society of Interventional Radiology, the annual conference, and now I'm giving it from my home office, which I share with my musician husband, so thank you to him for the intro. I'm Barbara Hamilton, and thanks for having me. I don't have any relevant financial disclosures that are relevant to this talk. And we have about 12 minutes to chat. I had previously left some time for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll have some contact info at the end. Basically, what I was tasked with here was to discuss some of the things that trainees will need to know before they graduate, some of my own personal experience with burnout, and some of the tools that I use to combat it. So now we have a little bit more time for the talk. And here we go. So just to introduce myself a little bit further for those of you that I haven't met personally, what qualifies me to talk about balancing the interventional life? I'm a private practice interventionalist in Southern California. I'm chief of IR at my institution. I'm the vice chair of radiology. I'm chair of the Women in IR section. Now I'm the past chair, actually, as of our past meeting. I'm the deputy editor of IR Quarterly, our quarterly IR magazine with the Society. I'm a wife and mother. I'm a blogger. I'm an investor. And I'm a personal growth junkie. So I balance all of these things in my kind of daily to weekly life. So you might think that a talk on balance from a woman in IR is going to look like this, kind of, happy family life and that sort of thing. But what I'd like to talk about is what the beginning of your career will look like, because I think this is really what you'll be facing and what you'll be dealing with, and probably what you'd like to hear from me. So there are some times when you start your practice where it's going to feel like everything is the trains are running on time and everybody is coordinated, like in this beautiful image here. But there might be some other days where you feel like this. You're just kind of putting on a happy face and just trying to get through the day. And so in the first couple of years in my practice, this is certainly how I felt at times. Like I was just kind of surviving. And I experienced burnout pretty early in my career. Medical students can have burnout, residents can have burnout, and even early career attendings can have burnout. So, I hope to destigmatize that and just by talking about my own story here. So some of the things that I think contributed to burnout early in my career were being in a corporate practice. Of course, people in academics might say, well, their number one cause of burnout is their academic practice. So they both have their pluses and minuses, but basically, there are some dynamics about a corporate practice that make it tough. There was a ton of calls, so I was in kind of an underserved area, not enough doctors really to cover the call duty, and really no help in sight. So it was not the easiest place to recruit either. You'd be surprised in Southern California, but we just didn't have any doctors coming down the pike. So I started to get burned out. And what that looked like for me was these were some of the manifestations of burnout in me. So I started to feel resentment, and I felt decreased compassion for the patients and for my staff around me. I felt kind of like a numbness on some days. I just was kind of going through the motions. And that numbness was punctuated by bouts of anger. So sometimes I just couldn't handle another phone call. I was on around the clock, sometimes for 3 weeks at a time around the clock. So people could call me at any time. And I just got fed up. So couldn't handle another question. And that's what burnout looked like for me. So my balance then, well, it sort of looked like, smiling photos. This is me trying to learn how to fly a helicopter. This is with a cousin in Europe. This is me and my friends hiking in Joshua Tree, getting ready for my wedding, and having a baby. But at work, sometimes I still felt like this, like I was just drowning. So let's address that. So what I'm not going to talk about today is self-care. I'm just going to skip that because I spoke about that during one of the RFS leadership webinar series on work-life balance. If you want to go and look that up, hopefully you can find it online, and that took place on 10/16/19. Also on my blog called tiredsuperheroine.com, I posted about beauty on the job, which is really about self-care and ergonomics in IR and just taking care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. But if that's too long and you didn't read it, basically my view on self-care is you should take care of yourself at work as though it's your home away from home, because it is. What I'd really like to talk about are the concepts of choice and intentionality. And so I used these concepts in personal development to try to figure out how I could make peace with my situation and how I was going to get through the next few decades of my career. And some of the things that I did to start to make peace with my position were to negotiate, to switch gears, to realize that this is my life, and lastly, to hone my leadership skills and start to hone those workplace relationships. And all of these things really helped me. So I'll explain a little bit as we go on here. So going back to this slide about me, what qualifies me to talk about balance, balancing the interventional life. One thing really helped me to find my balance, and it's this. I'm a personal growth junkie. So I started to read about things that were outside of medicine. I started to read about leadership, business, about negotiation. I learned to toot my own horn, which is not something that we're taught to do in medical school, or we're not taught by society. I negotiated daily and hourly rates, which was something which is a little bit peculiar or particular to a private practice environment in a corporate practice. So I was always being asked to work more for the same flat salary. So that's something that worked for me, was to negotiate daily and hourly rates. So everybody kind of wins, you know, they get more help, I get more pay. And I renegotiated an independent contractor agreement at that time. And that really helped me at the time. So I write about this in more detail on my blog, but that's just kind of an overview of how I started to advocate for myself. The next thing I did was to switch gears. And so late one night, I was just clicking around on the internet, just waiting for this case to begin. It was an emergent case, but of course it's, you know, the hurry up and wait that we're all used to as the patient's prepared and everything. So I used to just kind of waste time online looking at design sites like Elle Decor. This is one of my favorite. And I realized, you know, what am I doing? So I'd been considering this SIR volunteer application for a few weeks before that. I pulled up that application and it just absolutely poured out of me. So I was applying for the vice chair position of this newly formed group, the Women in Interventional Radiology section. And that's how I was chosen to become the vice chair of Women in IR, before I even realized that that meant I would become the chair of the section after that. So it just shows it was kind of like in a naive early career place, but that's okay. The next thing I did was I realized, you know, this is my life. And in training, you're so used to putting everything on hold, and you put sometimes even yourself on hold, you know, any projects or hobbies that you used to enjoy that were really integral to who you are. So I encourage you, as you make this transition into attendinghood, that you should take the time to sit somewhere quiet and ask yourself, what do you want to accomplish? Aside from your career goals, of course, that's important to set some goals as well and to reflect on. But aside from that, you know, what do you want out of the rest of your life? And for me, part of that was I'd always wanted to be an author. So for me, starting a blog was a stepping stone to doing that. And so now I'm, on my way to writing a book. The next thing I did was to hone my leadership skills. And so as I started to read about these books I mentioned, like personal development books and books on leadership that are written more for, I guess, the business, masters in business crowd, I started to view my department as sort of a leadership lab for myself. And I started to dissect the lessons I was learning on a day-to-day basis. And the way I dissected them was by writing about them and reflecting on them and developing, my thoughts about what was happening. And I wanted to share these with other budding leaders, so I do that on my blog. My work with SIR became an education in and of itself, what it's like to work within a not-for-profit organization. That was has been an incredible opportunity and extremely educational in forming my leadership capabilities and style. And by doing all of these activities, my practice leaders began to see me as a leader too. So this is something that really helped bring me out of burnout. So what do you want to create? This is a picture of me and my little boy. And there is so much that a life in medicine has to offer, even outside of the walls of the hospital. So I encourage you, as you make the transition into attendinghood, that you really consider the things that I've talked about today. This is a resource for you. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at tsuperheroine because Tired Superheroine was too long for that platform. And my blog is Tired Superheroine. And my tagline, Save Lives, Enjoy Your Own. That's in essence my personal balance. I strive to work hard and basically enjoy my life as well. And I hope you do the same. Originally, I had a worksheet that went along with this talk, which I plan to distribute in person. So if you would like that worksheet, you can just email me, tiredsuperheroine@gmail.com, or you can just send me you can send me a communication through the website. All right, and best of luck.